Welcome to the fourth episode of the Ethos podcast. Today we are hosting Harshad Jahagirdar, a true advocate for life science marketers. Harshad is somebody who understands the exact pain points and the challenges that life sciences and healthcare marketers face in communicating to their customers. And he goes a step further to help them, to empower them to conquer these challenges with precision. I am super excited to dive into this episode, so let's get into it. Harshad, I know that you are a mechanical engineer,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
You've done your bachelor's and your master's in mechanical engineering.
Yep.
So, obviously, my first question is that after being an engineer, what is it that drew you to marketing?
Interesting question. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I am from an engineering background, and for a large part of my professional journey, I was working with a lot of engineering companies, right? And in various roles, right? So in my first job, I was working on production floors, managing contract manufacturers, engineers, right? And then, of course, working with R&D because we were in the manufacturing of consumer goods business. And then my second job was more in civil engineering, where I was actually going out on the field. But then again, it was essentially engineering, right? But over the course of my jobs, right, in these companies, what I noticed was it was always the importance of communication, right? Communication with various stakeholders, whether it's workers on the factory floor, whether it is engineers who are designing products, whether it is executives who want status updates, right? It was always about being able to communicate in a concise and creative way, I would say, to some extent, because in engineering, there's a lot of information, right?
Yeah.
And we need to put it together in a way which gives people a quick sense of what's happening, right? So that's where I kind of realized that the method of communication and the content of the communication has a significant impact in how people absorb that information, react to it,
Right.
and take action based on it, right? So, and that's essentially what marketing is, right? I mean, marketers, what are they trying to do? They're trying to communicate with their customers,
Message,
right?
yeah.
So, though I'm from engineering, I see that there is that common thread between my experiences working in engineering and what marketers do.
Wow, okay. But then why specifically life sciences and healthcare marketing? Why not any other?
Well, of course, marketing as a field, there are various industries and they all have that need to communicate. Specifically with life sciences and healthcare, it's a bit unique because of the nature of the products and services that they offer. Because it's life sciences and technology and healthcare, there's a heavy emphasis on innovation in terms of the kind of products that they create, right? There's a heavy element of technology-driven innovation within that, right? And specifically in the context of life sciences and healthcare, the reason I am attracted to it is because, again, it is all about people, right? I mean, for me, it's all about engaging with people. And life sciences and healthcare is where they are directly impacting the lives of people, right?
Yeah, it is.
And that is why it's especially important. The communication with stakeholders becomes especially important in that context.
Yeah.
Right. And again, I mean, there are unique challenges to that as well because of that.
Very
Because of the field,
critical
right?
industries.
Yeah, it's a very critical industry. There are unique challenges associated with that industry. So that's why I find it very interesting. And I see tremendous potential to improve how communication can be done in that area.
So you mentioned unique challenges, or maybe they can be the points that you see that they can be improved, right? So can you tell us a little bit about them? What are the challenges?
Absolutely. So I would like to talk about three important challenges, especially in the context of life sciences and healthcare. The first most important challenge, of course, because it is impacting people's lives, there's a heavy element of regulatory compliance associated with whatever communication that you're doing, right? Whether it is with doctors, with researchers, scientists, or even with patients. So the regulatory compliance plays a very important role in terms of what kind of messaging is going out, right? So that's one. The second important aspect is there are different stakeholders, like I just said, right? There are researchers, scientists, they have different needs.
Yeah,
They need
correct.
different kind of content.
Mhm.
And they have different expectations in terms of what the product or the solution can or cannot do for them, right? And then, of course, because it is science, the nature of the products, the services, it's highly scientific, it's highly technical, right? And that is where I think marketers sometimes face the challenge to how do you translate something which is very heavy from the science and technology perspective to simplify that and to bring a human element to that communication, right? So these are typically the challenges, the three challenges that marketers especially face in life sciences and healthcare.
I think, there's also a lot of talk of, customer behaviors changing. So, life sciences and healthcare marketers are facing these challenges in simplifying things for the people. But I feel like one of the main hindrances that marketers face these days, and I think that's true even in the life sciences and healthcare industries, that attention spans have reduced tremendously, right? We are hearing that everywhere, and I'm sure that even in these industries it is just as true. So what are some other challenges challenges in customer engagement that you see happening, and how do you think that we can overcome them?
Interesting question. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Consumer behavior is changing. The world is changing, right?
Yeah.
Everything is becoming very digital, right? For example, right? So yeah, you're right to some extent that attention spans are probably much shorter now, but it is not so much of the attention span, but versus the way consumers are consuming content, right? Everything has become very digitalized, right? There's a digital transformation that's happening in multiple areas, right? So, at a very broad level, so one important trend is, of course, this use of digital solutions, digital tools that consumers are using to research, to learn more about products, right, and to engage, right? That's one. Second thing is, again, a lot of the consumers, they are or the stakeholders, right, in life sciences and healthcare, they are looking for very personalized solutions, right? So what I mean by personalized is that, again, because there are different stakeholders, right, and they have different needs, traditionally when companies communicate, they communicate about products, they communicate about their solutions, that customer centricity, like what is the consumer looking for, right, versus what you want to communicate versus what the consumer actually wants to know in his particular or her particular context, for example, right? So consumers are looking for very personalized content, right? Something which resonates with them. They're looking for information that makes sense to them in the context of the work that they do, in the context of the their jobs or the companies that they work in, right? So there's the personalization aspect of it, right? And most importantly, in life sciences and healthcare, what consumers are typically looking for is the credibility and trust with the companies that they engage with. It's very important, right? So again, this is a very unique sort of element of life sciences and healthcare marketing, is that marketers here need to provide a lot of content, right, which is not necessarily just about the products and services. It is about providing content which is educational, which is scientific, which is going to help their consumers
something which builds
upgrade
trust
themselves, and it builds trust and credibility, right? So that's the third important aspect in terms of what consumers are looking for.
So these are some things that need to be addressed, need to be taken into consideration by marketers when they are addressing the needs of such critical industries like healthcare, healthcare and life sciences consumer. So how can these challenges be addressed then?
So there are a couple of things they can do, right? I mean, again, like I said, the consumer behavior is changing, and marketers need to adapt to the consumers, right? So one thing is, of course, tailored messaging, right? Because like I said, consumers are looking for personalized content. So tailored messaging, tailored content for specific personas is what they should be looking at, right? Secondly, again, because of the digital transformation, the channels that they are using to deliver that content to their consumers, they need to be very mindful of that. Is that the right channel in the right context, right? So so for me, it's always about that perfect mix of content and technology, right?
Okay.
So marketers need to be very aware of what is the right combination, right? So the tailored content, of course, the content itself, there are ways there are different formats in which the content can be delivered, right? So marketers need to be open to exploring various different formats of the content and of course the different channels.
So what are these channels, or what is the perfect combination of content and tech, like you said?
So it again depends on the context, right? Like with some personas, one aspect of it is the content itself, right? Content can be in various forms, right? Traditionally, content, for example, used to be in the form of printed brochures or flyers,
white papers,
right? And then YouTube now has been around for a while. There are videos that marketers have been creating, right? And then with the digital transformation that is happening, there's Web 2.0, Web 3.0. So now there's a lot of companies which are using the power of the web, right? Which is to create these interactive experiences, for example.
Okay.
Right? And then, of course, there's virtual reality, augmented reality, right? Which is something that is really emerging and which is really, it's showing a lot of promise in terms of engaging with customers, right? And if you think about it, it is basically just different levels of engaging with the audience, right? When you talk about print, you're talking about only visual engagement. When you talk about videos, you're talking about visual and audio, right? There's an audio element to it as well. When you talk about web interactive, it is you are engaging the users to actually click on things, participation, right? So there's more active participation, right? And then of course, when we reach end of the spectrum, which is VR and AR, which is totally immersive. Right? The consumer is completely engrossed with the content, right? So it is just different levels of engagement.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have been interacting with all these life sciences and healthcare companies for a very long time. You've interacted with people from Agilent, from Siemens, from Healthineers. So my main question is that there have got to be some apprehensions that they have. Are there any myths that they are going forward with regarding these technologies?
Okay. Yeah, there are some myths and some misconceptions that people sometimes have about some of especially these emerging technologies. So for example, if you talk about VR and AR, immersive technologies, people have a concern that, for example, it is very complex and it is very expensive to produce content and experiences within that space, immersive experiences space.
Is it not?
It is actually not. And yes, of course. I mean, it is a VR and AR is a technology as a solution, as a platform, has been evolving, right, over the years, right? And especially in the last couple of years, right, there have been significant technology advances. Like, for example, with VR, the form factor of the goggles has significantly reduced. It has become less clunky, right? And so there are advances that are happening, right? Even in terms of developing experiences, there are a lot of tools and platforms that are now available which simplify the process of creating these experiences, right? So it is something that is constantly improving, right? The time to create something and the cost associated with creating something, right? So it is on this downward trajectory and it's getting optimized, right? And especially as the solution scales, there are going to be economies of scale as well that come in, right? I mean, the innovation is going to drive further improvements in that. Yeah.
And it's very scalable also, right? So that's, I think, another thing that, so when you say that there is further like change, or you said innovation. So the thing is, I think once you've made an investment in an experience, it can be scaled easily to include other changes that you've made in your, say, product. Is it?
Yeah, I mean, so that's an interesting point that you're making. That's also one of the misconceptions sometimes that people have, that, in terms of the kind of content that can be included within the experience, for example. It doesn't always have to be just a 3D experience. There's different formats of content. You can have videos playing within VR experiences. You can have assets that can be embedded within the experience. Right? The whole idea of VR is to completely engage and immerse the user in an environment, right? And be a one-stop place where anything that might be of interest to the user, that information is available. Now the format doesn't really matter, right? Within the experience, right? The experience itself is in VR, right? And just to kind of segue to based on this point, is a lot of marketers have questions about the return on investment, right? Like that's what you're saying, right? Return on investment. So VR experiences now, the way they are being designed, it is definitely possible to embed lead generation capabilities, features within the experience, right? Because after all, it's an engagement with the user, right? And
it has to be tracked.
It has to be tracked. You want to know how the user is interacting with the environment, right? You want to know the user behavior, and there are tools and solutions now where you can track analytics of the experience within the experience itself, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So how exactly are these technologies that we talked about right now? So how do you think they are affecting the customer engagement then?
So again,
that's the other side of the coin, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, from the user point of view, right?
Yeah, from the user point of view,
it is these experiences give them the opportunity to experience the product or the service in almost like a real time scenario, right? So, for example, I mean, imagine that there's a product which a laboratory instrument that is being used by the user, and then or they want to learn more about the instrument. Looking at brochures, watching videos, versus imagine that they can actually see a replica of the actual product instrument within the experience, right? And not just see, but actually interact with it, right? So, for example, if it could be about loading samples, seeing how to load the samples, seeing under the hood, right? What's happening inside the instrument, right? This is something which is not possible with traditional formats of communication like videos, and right? Yeah, people don't get to experience the technology, right? And especially in the context of life sciences and healthcare, it's the technology which is the innovation, which is driving the the product innovation, right? And that is what they want to actually communicate, right? So it just takes that engagement of the user to a completely different level, right? The user gets to really understand the product, understand the value propositions.
You gave an example of, say, a laboratory setup where people can use and interact with laboratory instruments. And can you actually tell me, say, about a project or a case study that might explain me and also our viewers better about what it can exactly do? Because I think not everybody has themselves experienced what it is like to, go and do stuff in a VR setup, in a VR environment. So can you tell us something more about that?
Sure, absolutely. So there was this client which is in the lab equipment manufacturing space, and they came to us with a challenge that, and this kind of relates to consumer behavior as well. That this is a very well established brand. They have a lot of products in the analytical and diagnostic space, right? They have a lot of instrumentation available. And historically or traditionally, companies have always been talking about products, talking about services, right? And now, what is happening is there is a shift in terms of the mindset, right? Companies are now more interested in, it's not about what my products and solutions are, it is about what problem am I solving for my customer, right? And customers typically are not interested in only in specific products. They're interested in how the product is going to help make life easy for them, right? So they have certain workflows, they have certain applications that they're working on, right, which probably requires multiple products, right? And what they're interested in knowing is not specifically about this particular product. They're interested in knowing what solution does the company offer to make my life easier, right? And so that was one of the challenges that they had, that they have a wide portfolio of instruments, and traditionally they had always been talking about individual instruments, right? And so what we did was, as a VR experience, for example, what we suggested was to create a virtual lab which is focused on workflows, right? Rather than instruments. Of course, the instruments are part of the workflow, but the focus is on the workflow, not the instruments themselves, right?
Okay.
And so we created this virtual lab which showcases different workflows depending on, of course, the target audience that the company was going after, right? So there are different applications of their products, different workflows that are being that could potentially use them. So we created this virtual lab with different sections which have different workflows, and within each workflow, you can look at the complete portfolio that the company offers, right?
Yeah.
And not only just look at the portfolio, look at how the portfolio works together to solve for that specific problem that is being addressed with that workflow. So it's an interesting experience because the emphasis is no longer on the products. It is about solving the problem for the customer, right? And they get to experience, of course, they get to experience the products. They can look at the individual products. And again, like I was saying earlier, they can look inside the hood.
Yeah.
They can actually engage with the product. Like, for example, they can try loading samples, see what happens, look at what the software is doing. And all this, because it's in a virtual immersive environment, it's almost real time, right? They get the feel of that being physically there and interacting with the products.
Wow. I think that definitely seems like it would be a great addition to people who are, trying to understand technical stuff in the life sciences and healthcare industries. There are a lot of instruments, like you said, workflows that might not be as simple to read through a book and understand it. So going through it is definitely going to help.
Yeah, it's all about helping people make that connection.
Yeah.
Right? It's about making the connection that it's not about just this product or that product. It is about how the products come together and solve your problem.
Yeah.
Right? And being able to give that experience in a seamless and in a natural way, right? Looking at how a user would think. That when a user thinks about a workflow, they think about steps. That, okay, I need to do this, then I need to do this, and then I need to do this. Right? How do I do this? How do I do this? Right? That's how the user is thinking. The user is not thinking, what product is this?
Correct. Right.
Yeah.
I think that gives me a lot of insight into how these experiences will be used. What do you think are the USPs of interactive communication? All sorts of interactive communication, or is it the content? Is it the tech? Is it the fact that you get to interact with it and in real time, since you are experiencing it, since you are doing it by yourself, the communication is, like you said, it's engaging and it teaches you better, or it allows you to experience what you're doing better?
So from two perspectives, that one is from the perspective of the marketeers.
Yeah.
What are the advantages? And then from a user point of view, what are the advantages? Right? So let me talk about marketeers first. So from the context of marketeers, interactive and immersive experiences, right? So when I mean interactive, I'm talking about web-based experiences where people can, so similar concept, right? Virtual labs, they can navigate web-based virtual labs as well. So from a marketeer's point of view, one of the key advantages of immersive and interactive experiences is that you can embed different kinds of content within the same experience, right? Whether it's videos, whether it is, these 3D interactions with the product, right? There could be collateral that is also available within the experience where people can click and download stuff, for example, right? So the flexibility in terms of different kinds of content. It's a captive audience in a sense, right, for the marketers, because once a person is in the experience, they have their attention, right? They have their attention, and of course, because of the nature of these technologies, you can embed lead generation, user analytics, and all of those things, right? So for example, with videos, you can track views, but you don't really get a sense of the user behavior.
Yeah.
Right? You wouldn't know.
Right.
You wouldn't know, for example, whether a particular section of the video was interesting to the user, right? You won't get those insights. But with interactive and immersive, you can track every interaction that the user has, right? It gives a lot of insights.
Yeah.
Right? So that's from the marketer's point of view. From the user point of view, right? Again, like I was saying, people are looking for personalized experiences. They are looking for solutions to their problems, right? So with interactive and immersive experiences, the user is in control of the experience, right? They are the ones who are taking the experience, right? It is not being pushed to them.
Yeah.
They have the choice to click on something. They have the choice to go and navigate in a certain room, for example, or a lab within the experience, right? So it empowers them, right? And of course, like I was saying, connecting the dots, right? Helping them connect the dots in terms of the solutions that the company offers and how it's going to make it easy for them.
Make it easy for them. Yeah.
So they get a better understanding of what the value propositions are, how it's going to help them, right? So those are the benefits from the user side.
Yeah, I think that makes it clear for me. Is there anything that you would like to say to our viewers? Is there any message that you have for them?
Well, I mean, the only thing I would say is that consumers are more demanding, their behavior is changing, right? And companies need to adapt, right? And they need to always put the customer at front and center of, whatever they're doing, right? It's about communicating and making it easy for customers, right? The purpose is that, the end goal is that, right? And then the focus on innovation in terms of how you do that, right? So it's the two things, right? The innovation in terms of the kind of content, the kind of channels that you're using in communicating, and keeping the customer front and center of whatever you do, customer centricity. Those are only two messages that I would like to share.
Yeah, I think thank you so much for being here with me on this episode. It was a great conversation and I got the answers to a lot of questions that I had. I'm sure that our viewers got answers to a lot of questions. And thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me here. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This episode was such a deep dive into the problems and challenges that are being faced by life sciences and healthcare marketers, and also a look at better customer engagement and the psyche of customers. I truly enjoyed learning from this conversation, and I hope that you did too. You know what to do next? Like, share, and subscribe. And also leave us a review. Tell us in the comments how you liked our episode. And connect with us on LinkedIn to let us know which other guests or what other topics you would like to hear from us. And until next time, stay curious, stay inspired, and keep embracing the digital world. This is Purva signing off from the Ethos podcast.